Never assume that you know everything. Never assume that you know nothing. Always work on how you feel, and always give things a test phase and ride them out. You know, if you don't try something for at least 6 weeks, you can't just write it off. But I've done it for 3 days. I'm an expert now. No. No. The main thing is that you, like, no matter how flexible I ever am, or whatever things that have ever worked for me personally, that I find, they are not going to work for everyone else, because everyone isn't me. You need to find out what works best for you. And again, like I said, if someone that is incredibly flexible and has never experienced any kind of mobility restriction in their life before is trying to tell you that, who's struggling with something like that, that this is a great exercise for them, it'll really fix things for them, it may not be. Like, how do they know? How do they actually know what it feels like? And like, I always assumed that squats felt a certain way until I fully opened up my hips and stuff like that there, and squats were not meant to feel like that. But I thought, you know, because I didn't know any different, I thought that's the way it was. You know, your knees were supposed to crunchy, grindy, and, you know, cave in and all that there sort of stuff. It was like, you know, that's just how you squat. That's what squats do. Squats are bad for your knees, you know. But whenever, like, I finally opened everything up and understood, and, like, was going up and down, I was like, here, that actually feels nice. That exercise makes me feel strong. Like, it's so different. It's crazy. So do not ever just take on anyone's word that something is going to work for you. You must try it out and see, you know, are you actually getting what you want from that. So if you're not noticing any improvement with something after 6 weeks, I would probably first ask the person that you learned it from and say, I've been trying this out for 6 weeks, it hasn't worked out for me, what maybe am I doing wrong, or is there something else I can maybe try, before even going down that route of saying, that's terrible advice, that doesn't work for anyone, because a lot of stuff works for everyone and a lot of stuff doesn't. It's just, you know, the individual, as always. Golf. Golf is bad. The amount of people that have hip issues and shoulder issues and stuff from golf is just crazy. Why though? The main thing is that you're always swinging to one side, so you're making one side really strong. Now, that doesn't mean, you know, stop playing golf altogether. Just make sure that your other training elements have that other opposite, you know, the complete opposite of what you're doing to try and keep you in the center somewhere. If your body starts to become really rotated and twisted and really strong to one side, and say you were to start getting back pain, one of the worst things you could do would be to listen to someone that goes, deadlifting makes your back strong, you should deadlift. No, you fucking should not. You're twisted, you're rotated, you're going to do an exercise that needs you to have symmetry. That is a horrible idea. You need to work on your rotational core strength in the opposite direction and find out things like the Palloff press and keep them feeling similar on both sides, and also rotational exercises that require you to rotate both ways. If you've been playing golf for a long time and you've never tried that, you're going to find that you're crazy strong on one side and the other side's like, I don't know what to do. And you're just going to have to deal with that. I love that voice, I'm sorry. So make sure that, you know, if you've picked a sport that has a specific requirement of your body to do, make sure that your general training has the opposing effects of that. So if you always have to rotate to one direction, then make sure that you're throwing the other direction in your training, and especially in your off season as well. It goes such a long way in preventing your injuries and stuff like that, and you need a lot less than you think you do. You don't need to make your life about trying to fix yourself. You know, you just need to do just enough to keep you straight enough so you can really keep on hammering things home and making yourself stronger for that specific sport. Just make sure that you do not try to do things that do not agree with your sport, or that will hinder it anyway, that will slow you down. So you don't want things like that as part of your training. People that diagnose one muscle as the problem are very dangerous. If you decide by reading one specific article on something that this one muscle is the cause of all of your problems, you are in for a lot of months of wasting your time, and then one horrible day whenever you realize that you are wrong. Joints work through a lot of different muscles, and you cannot locate everything down to one. Yes, you could maybe treat one and maybe notice an improvement in symptoms, but until you teach them all how to work together anyway, you're not going to find your problems go away, and especially not instantly. It takes a long time to retrain yourself out of pain or even bad habits. The more consistency you have again with it, the faster you're going to find results come. But if you are just at one muscle, then you're not going to get to the root of anything. You need to assess what you're training in, and make sure you have that nice combination of pushing and pulling, and making sure your posture's good and your chest is open and your hips are in the right place and all that there sort of stuff. So you need to look at your entire body as a whole, because that's the way it should work anyway. One of the weirdest things for me was whenever I went to a normal gym with all the machines and stuff, and after doing main big movements and body weight training and stuff for such a long time, it was so alien to start using cable machines and stuff like that there, and only using individual muscles at a time and stuff. It really felt wrong. Now, I did it all years before, and used all that stuff and thought that that's how you train and stuff, and then started doing all the other stuff that I do now as well. Started learning how to use my body all as one unit, and generating force from your core and your hips and everything, and then going back to doing that again, it was just so alien and so weird. I'm not saying it's wrong, it's just weird. So to have that sort of, for making a joint work well, to have that individual approach, it's not really going to work that well. So try not to ever blame one thing for your problems. It's probably a lot of different things. Rugby. Rugby. I know. Let's get a bunch of massive dudes to run at each other as fast as they can and collide and see what happens. There might be a ball, there might not be. Who cares? As long as you run into each other, that's fine. That can cause a few problems. Broken fingers, broken toes, completely exploded knees, stuff like that. Guys love the sport. It's an awesome sport, but you gotta make sure that you're strong, and you gotta make sure you're stable. Coming back to athletic drills and learning how to run and agility and all that there sort of stuff, a lot of that stuff gets left out in like non-professional terms. People need to start training fundamental things, balance and coordination and all that stuff, as well as getting crazy strong. Now, stretching wise, you don't really want to go too flexible for things like rugby. If you're too then you're just going to get wiped out. So you want to be strong, you want to be stable, and if that means sacrificing a bit of mobility here and there, that's fine. If you want to be good at your sport. Now, if you're trying to combine your rugby training with wanting to be able to do the splits, it's not, one is completely different to the other one. It's not going to go well together, so one can hinder the other one. So that's why you should always look at your sport or your goal or whatever it is that you want to do, and make sure the movementy stuff that you're doing or the training that you're doing is going to reflect how you want to perform in that way. So that's how you can you can go two totally different directions, and you're just going to get stuck somewhere, and that's where most injuries are going to happen with things, because you weren't prepared. Whenever you can always prepare a little bit better if you are doing the right things. Darts. You don't really hear that much about darting injuries, apart from the actual dart going into people. Ow. Had a dart in my knee once. That was annoying. It was weird. It didn't hurt, but like, if you've ever seen Ace Ventura, when it's just hanging out of your knee, you're like, woo! You don't know what to do. It's quite funny. Tennis is pretty cool. You've a lot of change in direction, a lot of hand-eye coordination. You're getting good rotational core strength, all that there sort of stuff. Tennis is actually pretty awesome. And if you ever notice, a lot of people that have tennis elbow and golfer's elbow and stuff like that don't even play those sports. So a lot of joint issues can come from, say, let's use an example, like a desk job. Say you always sit at your computer and you're always typing and you're always like this. So your arms are on the thing and you're always typing away like that there. It's a weird kind of type. So your wrist is always just in this position here. So what happens is here is lengthened a little bit and here is shortened a little bit. Now if you look at your elbow is designed to just, do this. So imagine if you lengthen everything on one side and then you shorten everything on the other side, and you never stretch the other way, then that's how, you know, elbows can become, you know, aggravated, can be either here or here, just from it being pulled in that one direction. So always make sure to explore your joints in general, so that, you know, find out what they can do. And one of the biggest things for getting rid of joint issues and things like tendonitis and stuff like that there is to actually strengthen the joint in all the directions it can be strengthened in, and you'll find a lot of problems just start to go away. So tennis is pretty good, actually. I like tennis. It's cool. Wouldn't play it, but you know. It does require a lot of training to be able to do it well, though, which is the problem. And again, it comes back again to agility and coordination and, you know, footwork and working and all that there sort of stuff, and to be able to do it well. The only people you ever hear about getting hurt to play tennis are generally people that are on holiday and the place has tennis courts and are like, oh, let's get a couple of rackets, hey, and then go out, and after 40 years of sitting down and, you know, I don't know, what do you do for 40 years when you sit down? Well, no, after 40 years of not playing tennis, they suddenly decide to play tennis for like an hour in the sun after drinking for like 5 days. It's just not a good idea. Don't say don't do it, but like, don't expect to be, you know, really good at it. Kettlebells. I like kettlebells. They're great. I have nothing bad to say about kettlebells. But in moderation, everything is good in moderation. If you were, the main thing that could come from kettlebell stuff is if you were overtraining, if you were just doing 100 million hours of kettlebell training every day, really, really heavy, and never, you know, taking a day off. That would be maybe why kettlebells could be bad. But generally, if you've been taught how to do kettlebells well, then they're pretty damn good. I love kettlebells. Yeah. Olympic weightlifting is awesome. Really good for building strength. Requires a ton of mobility, which if you're sensible about and develop properly, you know, it can actually help you keep mobility as well, which is great. The main thing that can arise with Olympic lifting is, again, as anything, overtraining. Trying to lift over 90% all the time it's going to tire you out. So you want to work in and around the 80% range and just always be improving on that. And, you know, just have your testing days and your fun days, or even just save that stuff for competition. As long as you're sensible about your programming, which goes for everything anyway, Olympic weightlifting can be awesome. The only one problem could be the split jerk. If you only ever do a split jerk on one leg, that is really going to be overloading one hip pattern. So think about hip patterns. You have flexion and extension one way, and flexion and extension the other way. Look at my bum. Look at my bum. And then neutral as well. So if you were to overload one of these patterns, so say one leg forward, one leg back, all the time with maximal loads, that's going to reorganize your core. It's going to make your hips stronger in that one pattern, and that's why a lot of guys get back pain on the one side and stuff like that, and can find their pelvis starting to rotate and things like that as well, or even find shoulder problems and all come out just because they're like being shifted in the one direction all the time. So remedies for that would be, again, just having good core work, but also, you know, practice doing your split jerks on your other leg as well, just in your warm-ups and stuff like that. With anything, you're always going to find that you are stronger on one side or prefer one side, but do not neglect the other side completely. And have someone in your corner. If you want to train at a high level and enjoy, you know, like learning new skills and getting strong as you physically can, have a, you know, therapist or someone that looks out for you that you go to at least every 6 weeks just to check you over and see is everything okay, and give you a good rub down, whatever it is that you need. So start, you know, if you look at a professional athlete, they do a lot of stuff for recovery, and that's where a lot of people go wrong. They work 9 to 5 and then train like a professional athlete for that, you know, hour, 2 hours, whatever, and then work 9 to 5 and then try and do that. So they're not getting, you know, they're not getting a nap during the day. The nutrition might not be as high, you know, as it should be, and they're not getting the massages or the saunas and the steam rooms and all that there sort of stuff. they're not doing all that other recovery stuff, so they're just hammering into their body and they're not giving any of that good loving stuff. So yeah, if you want to train on a high level, make sure that you are doing the things to chill your body out as well. Have that balance. Mixed martial arts. Sounds like a great idea. Just get in a cage and